My name is Rachel Whitmore. I'm 35 years old. And I didn't understand how fragile a life could be until the person I loved spoke about me like I wasn't even real. It happened because of a sentence that was never meant for me to hear. She's too trusting to ever suspect anything. I could cheat right in front of her and she'd still believe me. He said it lightly, almost amused. And the sound of his voice, calm, confident, unashamed, did more damage than the words themselves. Evan Mercer and I had been together for 2 years. 2 years of routines and assumptions, of shared grocery lists and weekend plans, of the kind of intimacy that sneaks up on you quietly and convinces you it's permanent. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party, one of those loud, crowded apartments where conversations overlap and first impressions blur. Evan had made me laugh within 5 minutes. I remember thinking how easy he felt, how natural. We built something that looked solid from the outside, and I trusted him. Not blindly, not stupidly. I trusted him because he gave me no reason not to. Until that Friday night. We had plans to meet at a new Thai restaurant downtown at 7 p.m. I arrived early, 6:40, like I always did. I liked choosing the table, settling in, letting the moment breathe before someone else arrived. I texted him that I'd grabbed a spot near the window. He replied that he was running late, 15 minutes, maybe 20. At 6:50, I excused myself to use the restroom. The restaurant had an odd layout. The hallway to the bathrooms passed a small private dining area separated by a decorative half wall with geometric cutouts. I didn't mean to listen. I heard his voice before I even registered what was happening. Distinct, familiar, unmistakable. I slowed, then stopped. Evan was sitting in the private area with Lauren, a woman he'd known for years. A friend, he'd said. Someone from before me. I could see them through the gaps in the partition. They couldn't see me. "I'm just saying Rachel's great," Lauren said. "But don't you feel guilty sometimes? With me?" My stomach dropped so suddenly I felt dizzy. Evan laughed. Not nervously, not defensively. Confidently. "Guilty?" he said. "Why would I? She's too trusting to ever suspect anything. I could cheat right in front of her and she'd still believe me." Lauren laughed too. "That's awful," she said, but there was no real judgment in her voice. "It's practical," Evan replied. "Rachel's stable, reliable. She listens. She plans. You're fun. Why would I choose when I don't have to? What if she finds out?" "She won't," he said easily. "Rachel sees the best in people. It's actually kind of sad how predictable she is." I stood there for maybe 10 seconds, or maybe 10 years. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. Something colder than anger settled in my chest. I turned around, walked back to the entrance, and texted Evan that I wasn't feeling well and had to cancel. Then I left before he could see me. I sat in my car in the parking lot with both hands wrapped around the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. There were a dozen ways I could have handled it. I could have stormed back inside, thrown the truth at him in front of Lauren, demanded answers. That would have been emotional. That would have been expected. But I wasn't naive. And I wasn't impulsive. I drove home. And I started planning. That night, Evan called around 8:30. He sounded concerned, sweet, attentive. I told him I was fine. Probably something I ate. He suggested we reschedule dinner. He told me to rest. He said he loved me. I said it back. And it felt like swallowing glass. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and did something I'd never done before. I stopped trusting. I went through his social media slowly, methodically. Instagram, Facebook, old tags, comments. Lauren appeared more often than I'd realized. Photos where she was just out of frame. Inside jokes disguised as casual emojis. Check-ins that overlapped with nights he told me he was busy. By 2 a.m., my desktop was filled with screenshots. Timestamps, patterns, proof. And when I closed my laptop, I already knew what I was going to do next. Because Evan thought my trust made me weak. And I was about to show him exactly how wrong he was. The next morning, I woke up with the strange calm that comes right after a car accident, when you're still alive, still breathing, and your body hasn't caught up to what almost happened. My phone buzzed at 8:12 a.m. "Evan, good morning, babe. Feeling any better?" I stared at the screen for a long time before answering, because the version of him texting me, sweet, attentive, boyfriend of the year, was the same man who had laughed in a private dining room and called me predictable. I typed, "Me. A little. Just tired. Might take it easy today." A simple message. Soft, normal. And it hit me then, like a second impact. He hadn't just cheated. He'd made a sport out of underestimating me. By noon, he showed up at my apartment with iced coffee and a bag of pastries, like he was playing the role of concerned boyfriend in a commercial. He kissed my forehead. Still pale, he murmured. I hate that you were sick last night. I watched his face while he spoke. His eyes were steady, his voice was warm. Not a flicker of guilt. It was almost impressive, the way he could say one thing while living another. Yeah, I said lightly. Probably just stress. He moved around my kitchen like he belonged there, like he hadn't just shattered something inside me. And I realized something else. If I confronted him now, he'd lie. He'd deny. He'd make me feel crazy. And because I'd always been the one who chose peace over conflict, he'd assume I'd back down. That's what people like Evan counted on. Your desire to keep the world stable. Your instinct to be decent. That afternoon, we went to brunch. It was his idea. Public places, bright smiles, the illusion of normal. He reached for my hand across the table, thumb rubbing over my knuckles like he was anchoring me. You sure you don't want to talk about last night? He asked gently. You just left so fast. I forced a small laugh. It wasn't dramatic, I just felt gross. He nodded sympathetically. I get it. I was worried. Worried. The word almost made me choke, because I'd watched him laugh about cheating in front of my face. And yet here he was, calling me babe like I was still his safe little home. Later we walked through a farmer's market. He bought me flowers. Yellow daisies, bright and cheerful. Just because, he said. I held them, smiling, while my mind replayed the sentence again and again. She's too trusting. The cruelest part wasn't even the cheating. It was the contempt. The idea that my kindness made me less intelligent. That my loyalty made me a joke. That night he went home, and I finally let my face go blank. No more pretending, not when I was alone. I poured myself a glass of water I didn't drink and opened my laptop again. But this time, I wasn't looking at him through the lens of love. I was looking at him through the lens of evidence. I didn't scroll like a girlfriend. I scrolled like someone building a case. Every photo he'd posted in the last year. Every tag. Every comment thread. The way Lauren's name showed up like a hidden stain. She wasn't always obvious. She was never framed as romantic. But she was there, in the background of a group photo at a bar, her hand on his shoulder. In a gym selfie where her reflection caught in a mirror behind him. In a comment under his post, "Miss you already." He replied, "Soon, soon." Like it was a schedule. Like it was a plan. I clicked her profile. Public, careless, girls' nights, rooftop drinks, captions about toxic men paired with photos of her leaning into Evan like she'd claimed a place. The worst part? She didn't look guilty either. She looked smug. I took screenshots. Dozens. Then hundreds. I created a folder on my desktop and named it something neutral. Taxes 2026. Because if Evan ever looked over my shoulder, I wanted him bored. I opened a spreadsheet. Date, location, post, tag, time. It was disgusting how quickly it became clear. He'd been weaving lies like he'd been doing it his whole life. Around 1:30 a.m., I found the thing that made my stomach twist harder than anything else. A check-in at a small cocktail lounge 3 months ago. Evan had told me that night he was catching up with coworkers. But in the tagged photo, Lauren was there. Her arm hooked through his. Her lips close to his ear like she was whispering something private. And the caption said, "Finally got you back." Back. Meaning she'd had him before. Meaning I hadn't been the start of anything. I'd been the pause. I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen until my vision blurred. 2 years. 2 years of jokes and dinners and I love you. And the whole time, he'd been keeping the door cracked open for his ex-girlfriend. Like I was a placeholder. A convenience. A stable home base while he chased the fun when he felt like it. By morning, my eyes burned and my body felt hollow, but my mind was sharp. I knew exactly what I needed next. Not assumptions. Not suspicions. Proof no one could argue with. The kind of proof that didn't depend on feelings. The kind of proof that could survive lies. So at 9:07 a.m., I made a call that felt surreal, like I was stepping into someone else's life. A private investigator. Her name was Linda Chen. And she didn't sound surprised when I told her why I was calling. She sounded prepared. "I'm sorry," she said calmly. "How long do you think it's been going on?" "I don't know," I admitted. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "I found out 2 nights ago." "What do you need from me?" she asked. "Photos? Timestamps? Where he goes?" "I need to know exactly what he's been doing," I said. "And for how long?" There was a pause. "That's usually for divorce proceedings," she said gently. I swallowed. "I know, but I want it irrefutable before I do anything." She quoted me a price. It was high enough that my brain should have hesitated. But it didn't, because my heart had already paid the real cost. "I'll do it," I said. We scheduled a meeting for Monday. The rest of that weekend, Evan came around like nothing had changed. He held my waist while we watched a movie. He kissed my temple. He laughed at my jokes. He looked at me like I was safe. And every time he touched me, I had to fight the urge to recoil, not because he was unfamiliar, but because he was. He was suddenly a stranger wearing my boyfriend's face. Saturday night, he fell asleep on my couch with his arm across my lap. His breathing was slow, peaceful. I stared down at him and wondered how someone could sleep so well while lying to someone who loved them. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Linda Chen. This is Linda. I just wanted to confirm our Monday meeting. And Rachel. I know this feels extreme, but you're doing the right thing getting clarity. I stared at the message for a long moment, because the word she used, clarity, was what I needed more than revenge. I didn't want drama. I didn't want to scream. I wanted the truth so clean and sharp that Evan couldn't wiggle out of it. And then, I wanted him to watch the consequences unfold. By Sunday night, I was exhausted from pretending. Evan stood in my doorway, pulling on his jacket. I love you, he said softly, like he meant it. I held his gaze, forcing my face to stay gentle. I love you too, I lied smoothly. He smiled, satisfied. He kissed me goodnight, then walked away, confident I'd never suspect a thing. The moment the door closed, my smile disappeared. And in the silence, I whispered to myself, not naive, not ever, because on Monday, the investigation would begin. And soon, Evan was going to learn the difference between a trusting woman and a foolish one. By the time Monday arrived, I felt like I was walking around inside my own body instead of living in it. Everything sounded muted. Colors felt dull. Even time seemed to move differently, stretching when I needed it to pass, speeding up when I needed to think. At 9:00 a.m. sharp, I sat across from Linda Chen in a quiet cafe 2 blocks from my office. She was exactly what I needed her to be. Calm, precise, unemotional. She didn't sugarcoat anything. He's careful, she said, flipping open a thin folder, but not careful enough. He rotates locations, thinks that makes patterns harder to spot. It doesn't. She slid her phone across the table. The first photo made my throat tighten. Evan Lauren, walking into a boutique hotel downtown, one I'd driven past 100 times. Timestamp 3 months ago. The next photo was worse. Him brushing her hair back. Intimate, familiar, practiced. This isn't new, Linda said gently. This is routine. I nodded, because some part of me had already known that. Over the next 2 weeks, Linda documented everything. Every lunch that wasn't really a lunch. Every late meeting that ended in a quiet parking garage. Every lie that was easy because I wasn't looking. But I was looking now. And what I saw was devastating in its consistency. He didn't cheat once. He cheated carefully. And the most revealing detail? Lauren thought she was the only one. She believed I was the ex. I could have confronted Evan the moment Linda handed me the first clear photo. I could have thrown it at him like a grenade, but I didn't. Because the more I watched him pretend, the more I realized something important. Evan didn't fear losing me. He feared being exposed, and that gave me leverage. The plan formed quietly. No rage, no theatrics. Just timing. I asked Evan to come over on a Saturday morning. Can we talk? I said casually over the phone. About us. He hesitated for half a second too long. Sure, he said. Everything okay? Yeah, I replied. I just want to clear the air. He arrived at 10 a.m. Relaxed, confident. Lauren arrived at 10:07. I didn't invite her by accident. I'd sent her a message from an anonymous account 2 days earlier. Hey, I think we should talk. About Evan. He told me you were his ex. Something doesn't add up. She responded within minutes. He said the same thing about you. So I invited her. And I didn't warn Evan. When he opened my door and saw her standing beside me, his face drained of color so fast, I thought he might actually pass out. What the hell is this? He asked. I stepped aside. Come in, I said calmly. We should all sit down. Lauren's eyes flicked between us. Rachel, she asked quietly. Yes, I said. I'm his girlfriend. Silence swallowed the room. Evan opened his mouth. Closed it. Tried again. This isn't fair, he said finally, voice cracking. You can't just ambush me like this. I smiled. You mean the way you ambushed me with 3 months of lies? Lauren sucked in a sharp breath. 3 months, she whispered. I turned to her and handed her a folder. Photos, dates, screenshots. I'm sorry, I said sincerely. He told me you were history. She flipped through the pages, her hands shaking. He told me you were history, she said softly. Evan stepped forward. Please, he said. Let's talk about this privately. No, I replied. You lost the right to private conversations when you turned honesty into a joke. Tears streamed down Lauren's face. I loved you, she said to him. I thought we were trying again. You were, I said evenly. He was just trying everything. Evan looked at me then, not angry. Afraid. What do you want from me? He asked. An apology? I'm sorry, I messed up. You didn't mess up, I said. You chose repeatedly. I stood. I don't want anything from you, I continued. I just wanted you to see that I'm not naive. I turned to Lauren. He called me predictable, I added, too trusting to ever suspect anything. Her face hardened. He said that? She asked. I nodded. She laughed once, sharp and broken. He said the same thing about you to me. Evan sank onto my couch like his legs had finally given out. This didn't have to be like this, he muttered. You're right, I said. You could have told the truth at any point. I picked up my bag. We're done, I said. Pack whatever you have here. I'll leave it with the building manager. Rachel, wait. I looked back at him. There's nothing to work through, I said quietly. You didn't break my heart. You broke my respect. That doesn't heal. I walked to the door. Lauren followed me into the hallway. I'm sorry, she said, voice raw, for everything. I know, I replied. So am I. In the parking lot, Linda sat in her car. She met my eyes and gave a small nod. As I drove away, I didn't feel victorious. I felt lighter, because the truth was finally out in the open. And Evan had nothing left to hide behind. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It came in waves, missed calls, unread messages, voicemails that shifted tones like weather, apologetic, furious, desperate, hollow. Evan called me 47 times in the first 24 hours. I didn't answer a single one. I blocked his number after the 12th voicemail, the one where his voice cracked and he said, I don't recognize my life without you. That was the problem. He'd never recognized me while he had me. He tried other routes, mutual friends, emails. A handwritten note slipped under my door that I threw away without opening. Lauren texted once. Thank you for telling me the truth. I ended it. I'm sorry it happened like this. I replied with a single sentence. You deserved honesty too. And that was the end of it. People love to say things like, everyone makes mistakes when cheating is discussed. But what Evan did wasn't a mistake. It was a system. A structure built on contempt and confidence. The belief that I was too kind to notice, too loyal to leave, too trusting to ever retaliate. The thing no one tells you? People don't fear anger as much as they fear clarity. 2 weeks later, I ran into Evan at the grocery store. I almost didn't recognize him. He looked smaller somehow, weight lost, dark circles under his eyes, hair pulled back carelessly like he hadn't bothered to look in a mirror. He froze when he saw me, then followed. Rachel, he said, please, just 5 minutes. I didn't stop walking. There's nothing to talk about. I've been in therapy, he blurted. I'm trying to understand why I did this. I paused then. Not because I was tempted, because I was curious. That's good, I said calmly. I hope it helps you. He swallowed. Don't you miss me? I turned and really looked at him. 2 weeks ago, that question would have destroyed me. Now? No, I said honestly. I miss who I thought you were, but that person never existed. That's not fair, he whispered. I met his eyes. Life's not fair, I said. You taught me that. Then I paid for my groceries and walked out. That was the last time I saw him. 2 months have passed. The apartment still echoes sometimes, but it's a peaceful echo. No more wondering where he is. No more believing stories that don't quite add up. No more swallowing doubt to keep things comfortable. I still trust people. That's the part everyone gets wrong. Trust isn't stupidity. Trust is a choice, one you revoke when it's abused. I didn't lose my ability to love. I lost my tolerance for disrespect. I had coffee with Linda once more. She asked how I was doing. I told her the truth. I'm not angry, I said. I'm relieved. She smiled. That's usually how you know you handled it right. My therapist later asked whether orchestrating the confrontation was necessary or if I'd been twisting the knife. Maybe I was. But Evan had been twisting it in my back for 3 months. I just made him watch when I finally pulled it out. Some people think I was too calm. Others think I was too cold. I think I was exactly what the situation required. Because Evan thought my trust made me naive. I wanted his final memory of me to be the moment he realized how wrong he was. And now, I'm single, wiser, still capable of love, just no longer willing to mistake cruelty for charm or loyalty for weakness. The funny thing is, Evan was right about one thing. I did trust him completely, right up until the moment he proved he didn't deserve it. That's not naive. That's just being a decent person who expects decency in return. He failed that test, spectacularly.